Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a bit of a chattier video to share with you guys. Although on second thought, this is the Mindful Maze and Chat channel, so you know what you came for when you clicked on this video. Speaking of, today I will be sharing some of the polishes that I really regret buying, and each one has a very different reason as to why I regret it, and essentially the reason why I made the purchase in the first place. So stick around to find out what mistakes I made and how to prevent you from making the same mistakes. Also, before we start off, I guess I do want to have some sort of disclaimer saying that although these polishes did not work for me for each individual reason, that doesn't mean that if you have them in your collection that they're bad or anything like that, or that you shouldn't pick these up. It's just my personal experience with them was not the best. The first polish that I'll be sharing that I regretted purchasing is actually two polishes, and they're very popular, so you might even have these in your collection. They are Mooncat Mercury's Tears and Ocean Lies, which I think was rebranded to Mermaid Bait, but either way, some of these Mooncat shades, guys, if you follow me very closely, you know how I feel about Mooncat. But regardless, reasons that I regretted purchasing these shades is because I really only purchased them because of the hype. And hype for A, Mooncat as a brand, and B, because of these specific polishes. I do remember that Mercury's Tears at the time was listed as one of their best sellers even, and I think it was advertised like basically everywhere as like the Mooncat shade back then. I mean, it's crazy to think how much they have grown since then, but back then Mercury's Tears was kind of like the Mooncat polish, at least in my mind. So I definitely wanted to pick those up when trying Mooncat, which was back then. And when I say back then, I mean like maybe 2021, 2022, I don't really remember, but a while ago. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try this new brand. It looks super cool. I like the aesthetics of it. Of course, I should pick up some of their best sellers. So I did just that. I picked up Mercury's Tears and Ocean Lies, as well as Access Denied. Here's what they look like. As you can see, they look just fine on the nail, but honestly, I did not enjoy the Mooncat formula, and I feel like at the time, and maybe even they still do, because spoiler alert, I have not repurchased from Mooncat after this order way back when. It was just not the experience I would have liked, especially considering how expensive Mooncat is. And now if we consider this whole tariff situation, I think they're going to become even more expensive. So I really do not personally recommend Mooncat. But like I said, it was just from the experience of these three polishes years and years ago. So as far as anything up to date, I mean, I really can't have much of a say because I haven't experienced it myself. But essentially, the issues that I was experiencing were that some of the polishes were just really, really goopy, and of course I have thinner, but these just felt like they were almost made to be goopy. I don't really know how to describe it. So they were thick and hard to work with, but at the same time, still so sheer. I remember being especially upset with Access Denied, which is not really included in this video because I do actually still have Access Denied, which, if you're wondering, none of the polishes that I'll be talking about today I actually still have. I have destashed all of them, so that gives an insight as to how much I regretted purchasing them. But like I was saying, the Mooncat shimmers were very, very thick and hard to work with, but also sheer at the same time. So I really did not appreciate that, especially given how expensive they were. And then just the handle in particular was just hard for me to hold. It kind of made it uncomfortable. It had a really thick stem for the bottle brush and then a very narrow bottleneck as well. And because the bottles themselves are not square or round, they're kind of rectangular, I feel like it would tip over sometimes, especially trying to fit that bottle stem into the neck. It was just not a good combo. And the polishes themselves, I guess I didn't realize because at the time, more so, Mooncat was also known for photoshopping their images a lot, and I guess I was kind of duped by that. The polishes seemed to have a larger particle shimmer than I was expecting. They weren't as smooth looking in real life, although I will say in the pictures that I'm sharing, the polishes look really stunning, but it just didn't really translate in real life. I just was not feeling them. I don't know if they just didn't go with my skin tone, if I got a bad batch, I don't know. There could be a million different reasons, but at the end of the day, I did unfortunately regret this purchase. I think I did end up leaving a review on the website or something, and Mooncat customer service did reach out to me and offer me a gift card, and I said no because I didn't need it because I would not be buying again from them. They did end up sending me one anyway, and I ended up giving it away to someone else because I really was just turned off from the brand. Unfortunately, that still remains, and that kind of sucks because I really do like Mooncat's whole aesthetic and everything, and they do have a lot of really pretty polishes. I just personally cannot get behind the inconsistency issues, especially when you're paying so much money for a bottle of nail polish. And I know some people compare them to other mainstream brands like Holo Taco and Cirque Colors, which I do purchase from, but I just feel like those brands have better consistency, and I appreciate that a lot more as a customer. Like, I know what I'm gonna get when I buy from them, especially when I'm paying like $16. Oh my goodness. The next polish that I regretted buying is actually kind of the opposite issue from the Mooncat shades. This polish was Cirque Colors Deja Vu. This was a finish that I was very, very familiar with. I had tons of the Cirque Colors shimmers. They were just so beautiful in my opinion, especially in the earlier days when I didn't really know a lot about different indies, so the shimmer polishes to me were like an awakening. But anyway, I liked those shimmers so much, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this in every color. So therefore I bought Deja Vu, and I was so excited for it. It came in the mail, and I'm like, actually, I don't really like this one on me, especially because it was like a gray, and ever since then I've realized I just don't really like gray polishes in general. But you know, I didn't know that at the time, and I'm like, oh, but it's a Cirque shimmer, like I'm gonna love it no matter what. I put it on, I didn't love it no matter what. It was not giving what I needed to give, and that was on me because even in the promo pictures, I was trying to convince myself that it would look better in real life. And I was like, oh, it has a purple shimmer in it. And I would latch onto one specific swatch picture and just be like, oh, like it'll look like that on me. And I'm like, no, why would I think that? I don't know. And then it's kind of funny because a few years later, after I purchased that, Holo Taco came out with Spirit Fingers, which is a somewhat similar polish in the sense that it's a gray base with like a pinky reddy shimmer. And even then, I was like, I already know this is like another Cirque Colors Deja Vu situation. Like, I love a shimmer, but not a gray one. And it took me having to go through that with the Cirque polish to realize that not every polish is for me, even if I do just really like shimmers. Speaking of swatch pictures, that leads me to the next regretful polish purchase. This is Polish Champagne Problems. When I first saw this polish, I was like, oh my gosh, Taylor Swift inspired polish. Like, I love it, I need it, and I bought it. And I was interested in it, but it wasn't until I looked through the swatch pictures that I actually realized that, oh my gosh, I actually really like this polish. However, it was really, like I said, similar to the Cirque one specific swatcher that swatched so beautifully, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly how it's gonna look like on me. Like, I love it, I need to buy it. I bought it. As you can see, this is the polish on me, and then I'll show you what it looks like on the swatcher. This was the picture that kind of convinced me to buy the polish. I don't feel like I was duped or anything, it's just that my expectations were like up here, and then when I received the polish, I was like, why does it look like it's down here? Like, I don't know. I feel like the vibe was just different. You know, it could be a lot of things, like it wasn't sunny or this or that, but either way, at the end of the day, my advice to you guys, so you can learn something from my experience, is that do not just latch onto one specific swatch picture, and if you want to go a step further, try to figure out like what swatchers in general are showing more realistic pictures to what you see in your everyday life. Like if some swatchers, I don't know, only swatch in the sun and you are like a landscaper, shout out Landscaper Nails on Instagram, then maybe those swatchers are going to be more realistic to you. If someone is always swatching in fluorescent lighting and you're always in your office, then maybe that's going to be more similar to you, etc., etc. And also try to find someone who has a similar skin tone or undertone to you, because then that'll really help you envision how it's going to look like on you, because those differences actually do play a big role in how the polish will look like on your nails. So don't be like me and only purchase a polish solely based off of one specific swatch that you think will look exactly like how you see it in real life. This next one that anyone with a big enough nail polish collection will probably have also experienced. The polish that I regret buying is ILNP's Love Language, and the reason that I bought this polish is because I was just starting out my nail polish collection, and essentially I didn't really know what I liked, and I was just scrolling through the hundreds of polishes on the ILNP website and was like, okay, yeah, this looks like something mildly interesting, let's buy it. Let's spend $10 on this mildly interesting polish. And that's how I ended up with this polish. I mean, I got it and I tried it and I'm like, why did I buy this? This is not really me. This is not really like who I am as a person. This polish does not have me in it. It's just like a polish. You know, sometimes you get a polish and I'm like, oh, this is just a nail polish. This isn't like everything that I ever dreamed of. It's just something that exists. Anyway, this was that polish for me. I was like, eh. So I blame it on just being new and not being really in tune with what I like in the polish. And sometimes that happens, and hopefully it happens less and less as you become more familiar with your own tastes in nail polish. So my advice on that one is if you're starting out your collection, try to really get familiar with those things and you won't make mistakes like this. This next one might also affect people who are just starting out their collections like I was. The polish I'm talking about is Holo Taco 1 Melon Followers. This one, by the way, has since been discontinued, but essentially, in the mindset that I was in at the time of purchase, which was right when the polish came out back in 2021 maybe, was that I basically needed to have every single color in my personal collection. Not from a specific brand or anything, it was just like any color in general. And I didn't have, I guess, a light orange cream, and I decided because I don't have a light orange cream, I need to have one. And that's really not how that works. You actually don't need to have anything in your collection. Your collection should really only be things that you actually like and enjoy. So I'm over here buying a polish that I knew I did not really like this polish, but I only bought it because I'm like, well, I don't have it, so therefore I need it. Which is such a backwards way of thinking. If you think about it, like, you actually don't need to buy anything. No one is forcing you to put in your credit card number, spend your hard-earned money on something that you don't even like. In the hopes is that when you get it in person, it'll exceed your expectation. Like, guys, let's be so for real right now. Like, how often does that actually happen? That a polish exceeds your expectations. I feel like a lot of the time, expectations are either met or you can even be underwhelmed, which of course I guess is the theme of this video, is polishes that I regret buying. But either way, I think maybe I used it once and then I destashed it shortly after because I got out of that mindset that I needed things just because I didn't have them, and it was like kind of a collector's mentality, and I have strayed from that these days and I am very grateful for that. This next one kind of has a goofy reason attached to it as to why I regret it. I am talking about Glam Polish My Precious, but there's a few polishes in this collection and I bought all of them for the same reason that you definitely should not have when you buy polish, and it is buying something only because you like the name of it or the collection theme or the inspiration behind the polish, and not because you actually like the polish itself. Because let's be real, guys, I mean, polish inspiration, yes, it's great, it's an awesome part of the community, but at the same time, when you're wearing the polish, it could theoretically be inspired by just about anything. I think a lot of the time you see this like in polish pickup, especially where you have tons of different makers all following the same theme, but some polishes look so different, and I feel like sometimes you can tell that the makers kind of just make a polish and then just put some random image attached to it to make it seem like it was vaguely inspired by the theme that month, when in reality they just made the polish and had nothing to do with the theme. So all that goes to show that a polish name and inspiration really is not as attached to the actual polish itself as you may think. And while, you know, polish names might make us feel good because it reminds us of something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you kind of have to spend your money on something just because you like that thing. If you haven't caught on, by the way, the inspiration behind this specific polish was The Lord of the Rings, and I really like that franchise, so I bought the polishes, and it was a whole Middle-earth collection, and I was so excited by it. And then I bought like 4 of these polishes, and I am trying to destash them, but I might keep 1 or 2 just because I do actually like them and I think they're kind of unique. But in general, it's not a habit that I have kept up, and I don't think I've actually bought any other polish just because of the name or inspiration. Although that being said, in this video I did talk about a polish, Champagne Problems, that I bought mostly because it was Taylor Swift inspired. But besides that, I think I haven't really done this again. This next one I'll be talking about is Bee's Knees Lacquer, the Crone. Now, I fear that this reason behind the polish purchase was actually made by multiple people, and it was essentially that back in, I want to say 2023, Beasley's Lacquer was kind of taking a break, shutting down, and they were having one last collection release and one last sale. Everyone was very sad that, Beasley's Lacquer was shutting down because it was, and it still is, a big part of the indie nail polish community, and I know it has a lot of fans. So at that point, I had been interested in Beasley's Lacquer, but I had never purchased from them before. So once I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, like now is the last chance I'll ever have to purchase from Beasley's Lacquer, and I should buy a bunch of polishes. And so I bought this polish, and some may say it doesn't look exactly like the swatch pictures. It definitely looked more purple online. In person, it really just looked silver with a purple kind of bluey shimmer, and I was not impressed, to say the least. And I'm like, wow, I really only bought this polish because they were going out of business, and that's literally it. So that kind of sucked. And I think there's a chance that that sentiment might become more popular now, especially with the whole tariff situation, because I know a lot of brands are raising their prices. And guys, there is a cap as to how much people are willing to pay for polish. So if prices become too high, I do fear that some indie nail polish businesses will start going out of business. So my advice, although it is very sad, do not solely buy from a brand just because they're going out of business. I know it's like very sad, especially if maybe you had wanted to purchase from the brand before, but at the end of the day, it is something that more than likely you will regret, because at that point, if you hadn't purchased from them in the past, there's probably a reason for that, and now that they're leaving, that doesn't mean that that reason goes away, you know what I mean? So definitely be wary of that in the next coming months. Also, I should mention that the reason that BKL was kind of like going out of business at the time was because the owner was having health issues. And due to her health issues subsiding, she was able to bring the brand back in a new way. I think they had a bit of a rebrand, and they still make polishes, and they are still just as loved as ever. This last polish that I'll be talking about is actually 5 different polishes because it is Holo Taco's Remix collection, which was their anniversary collection from a few years ago. Essentially, the story goes that I really wanted one specific polish from this collection. It was called Everything Taco, which was just an iridescent flake topper. And of course, it was limited edition, and this was back before Holo Taco really got a handle on supply, essentially, for each collection. So I really felt I had to buy this polish right now. And while I was deciding, if I should just buy this polish or some other polishes, the polish actually ended up selling out, and I was freaking out because I really, really felt like I needed the polish. It was definitely a sense of FOMO that I put onto myself, and I succumbed to that, unfortunately. And the worst part is that I convinced myself that I actually could still get the polish, but I needed to purchase the whole collection because the whole collection box was still in stock, but the individual polish was not. When honestly, if I did like 5 minutes of research, I could have found like hundreds of different iridescent flake toppers, but of course I felt like I needed the one from Holo Taco specifically. So I was just wrapped up in all the FOMO of it, and it was like their anniversary. It was like a bit overwhelming, and when I realized that the collection box was still in stock, unfortunately, I noticed that I did not have enough money in my bank account to be buying like that $70 collection or however much it was, and I decided, well, I need this. There's no other option in my mind. Like I felt like I needed to have it. I couldn't just wait or find an alternative. Like I needed that specific one. So I did the horrible decision and I asked someone for money to buy this collection because I didn't have the money. And I was like, I'm essentially going into debt for nail polish. That's like horrible practice for things that you do not need to survive, especially polish that is dupable. I mean, it was really just not a good idea at all, and I really regretted doing that. I mean, thankfully the lesson only cost me however much that collection was, and I did eventually pay that person back, but it was just not a good habit to uphold, and I felt really, really guilty afterwards. And imagine my surprise when that polish ends up getting voted back into the Holo Taco catalog, and you could just buy it like regularly. And I think you can still buy it now at Holo Taco. Whereas back then I was like losing my mind over needing this polish, and it was gonna be the last chance I ever had. And they ended up bringing it back anyway. So I'm like, guys, like, I did this myself. And here we are. That's probably the biggest polish purchasing mistake that I've ever made. The sad part is that I do think this instance is probably more common than a lot of people think. I know that with these, pay later situations like Klarna and Afterpay and things like that, it makes it easier for people to essentially go into debt to buy these things because obviously you're not using those things if you can afford to just pay for it up front. So the fact that you're kind of putting yourself in a situation where now you owe money for a month or however many days just to buy nail polish that you never need to buy. And even if you want it, you can just wait, you can find dupes for it, and it's just not really a good idea to get yourself into the habit of going into debt for things like that, especially not things like nail polish. The last kind of similar topic that I will talk about is getting either mystery polishes or only purchasing because of a gift with purchase that is possible. I've never personally bought a mystery polish. I think it's not really the smartest thing to do, just because why would I buy something that I don't know what I'm getting? So it doesn't make sense in my brain, like logically. It's definitely fun, but I can also find other ways to have fun than like paying money for something that there's a high likelihood I won't even like. However, I definitely have tried to add as many things to my cart as I can in order to reach the limit, in order to get a gift with purchase. I've gotten about 3 different gift with purchases and I have destashed all of them just because I don't like them, and I definitely have cut that habit. I'm definitely setting a rule for myself to never do that again, just because it is actually very similar to the whole mystery polish, because a lot of the time the gift with purchase is a mystery polish. So the fact I'm spending more money just to get to this mystery polish, which it's like 3-0. I have lost every single time when it comes to gift with purchase polishes, just because I guess maybe I am picky or I don't know what, but yeah, I've just destashed all of them, and I definitely regret adding extra things to my cart just to get things that I don't even know if I will like and I've never liked. I don't know. It's just not a good idea, you guys. So learn from my mistakes. All right, you guys, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me chat about all of these regrets that I've made. I definitely have learned my lessons from a lot of these. Let me know if you guys have experienced similar regrets. I know basically everyone has when it comes to polish purchasing. I know it can be overwhelming for sure, and it's easy to fall into these marketing manipulation tactics, but I believe in you guys. We can get through this, especially during these hard times. I know it's easy to rely on things that give us pleasure like nail polish, but we are strong to come to it. Enjoy the things that you do already have, save your money, all that good stuff. Check out my videos on FOMO and the low buy, no buy tips if you need that extra reinsurance and ideas when it comes to trying to prevent yourself from buying more polish. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you need something, that's kind of the point where something should click. If you feel like you need something, something's not right, especially when it comes to nail polish. But me and my channel are here to support you guys who are on this journey, and I thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you feel like you learned something or got some kind of value out of this. I will be, of course, sharing so many other tips when it comes to mindful consumption, and I appreciate the ones who have already subscribed. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.